to the reckoning. It is 4 o'clock. Time to get down to business today. A couple of hours ahead of politicking, both Missouri and national. And we're going to hop right into it. In fact, we're going to resume our second hour from yesterday. No, not just the continuity of the end of the hour to this one. We're going to get back to our interview with Hannah Kelly, running for state senate there in District 16 down in our southwestern listening region, down there in the 107.3 area. But Hannah Kelly, former representative, actually spent several years in the House, running now for District 16. We're going to take a little bit of time to get to know her and find out her priorities, why she's running for Senate. So I welcome her now. Hannah, how are you doing? Thank you for being on with me for a few minutes.
It's an honor, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I am so glad we could do it. And I know we had some bumpy rides yesterday, but we got it figured out. And I'm glad to have you back. But yeah, if you would, just tell me just a little bit about your background. Of course, HannahKellyForSenate.com. You all can look this up as well. Find her on Facebook and X. But Hannah, tell me, you spent some years in the House. What are your priorities? What is your story that led you to the decision to run for the 16th District of Missouri Senate?
I love the question. So, Ryan, my story began back when I was 18 years old. I got my real estate license. And I wasn't planning on getting into real estate, but after I sold my first house to the first-time home buyer, right, I realized that was what I loved doing, and the rest is history. That's been 20 years ago now. And it plays a huge role why I decided to run in 2016 and why I'm running now. If elected to serve as the next state senator, my top priority will be working to address the current structure of our state tax commission. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, our state tax commission dominates the process of property assessment. And I believe we need to have some very serious conversations about where we're at and where we need to be to ensure that our folks here in the state of Missouri, especially in the 16th district, but across the state, can count on making sure that we don't have uncontrollable property tax increases. And so secondarily to that, but more importantly than anything, I've had the privilege of being a mom to my daughter, who I adopted when she was 17. She's 24 now, just got married a couple weekends ago. But I adopted her from the foster care system, Ryan, and it is such a ginormous piece of my heart, both in just everyday life, but also in the role of which I'm trying to seek to serve here, because our kids have got to have a voice that otherwise have none. And the work of foster care and making sure that we hold the departments accountable, making sure that the kids have an opportunity to truly have the best future that every child deserves, I believe is ever more urgent in today's world. And with the experience I have in the background with walking through my own adoption journey with my daughter, and with the years spent in the House on the Budget Committee, as well as chairman of Children and Families Committee, and just working with my folks back home to overcome all the things that can happen on the road of life, I very much would like to work in the Senate to ensure that we're doing right by Missouri's kids that are in our foster care system. So I would say property taxes and foster care system are my top two priorities, as well as our farmers and small business owners, our veterans, and our senior citizens. I've been spending a lot of time with our senior citizens the last couple days, and man, there's just so much wisdom, first of all, and secondly, so much work to be done to make sure that they have what they need to be able to be involved and thriving within the local communities, and especially in the form of our senior citizen centers. They play such a huge role in the lives of our senior citizens, and I've really enjoyed learning a lot from our senior citizens the last couple of days about where the needs of our senior citizen centers are and what we can do going forward to make sure we're doing right by them.
Well, I love it. I love hearing the priorities, and a lot of those speak to me. We're actually, our home church is a very, very active participant in foster adoption, here in the state of Missouri. Probably on any given Sunday, you ask one of the services, how many people are foster adoptive families, you'll see probably a third of the hands go up. So it's certainly something near and dear to us. But I'm curious, especially actually two of these things kind of coincide to me. If you talk about the state of property taxes in Missouri and talking with senior citizens. Let me ask you this. I know that, of course, one of the big things that's almost overshadowing all of the candidates on the ballot, it feels like, are these budget amendments, or I'm sorry, are these constitutional amendments, one of which, of course, has to do with the budget, with taxation, and a lot of it swirling around. What are your thoughts on the prospect, especially if you get an opportunity to play in the Senate here, the prospect of what to do with Missouri's taxation? Because Amendment 5 opens up the door to all sorts of stuff. Now, we're going to tinker with income tax, sales tax, consumption tax, but also property taxes are mentioned in it as well, as that relates down to the local level. What do you think it might be some of the opportunities, if given the chance to work on this in the Senate in the coming legislative year?
So first of all, I want to preface for absolute transparency because I believe that's really important. I am not in support of Amendment 5 on the ballot, and although I am an absolute, anybody who knows me knows, tax reformer at heart. My companion concern is always making sure that we at the state level take the approach that every Missourian has to do at their kitchen table this evening, and that is look at what responsibilities we have and make sure that make sure that the maths, right, as my daughter says. And so, however, if elected to serve as your next state senator and I see that Amendment 5 passes, my number one priority is going to be making sure that we have appropriate checks and balances within the new restructuring, to make sure that we're taking into consideration all portions of the population that have the needs and concerns in regards to, the reality of a fixed income, the reality of consumption. The example that I'm going to give you is I was talking to a mom the other day. She said, Hannah, we're in the middle of raising our family, and it is not cheap to fill a pantry every week. And the concern would be on the taxing of services, and how that affects your average middle class family in the state of Missouri. We need to have serious conversations about that and make sure that there are proper checks and balances to make sure that this is actually a tax cut and that families across Missouri and all walks of life don't end up paying more in the end, right? Yeah. That's at the end of the day. That would be my ultimate concern, and that would be the lens through which I view how we shape that policy if we do have the opportunity to work on restructuring tax code through the venue of Amendment 5 passage.
Okay. And then one more question again, folks. We're talking with Hannah Kelly running for State Senate District 16 down there along the I-44 corridor, Phelps County, Dent County, several surrounding Mary's, I forget the whole district. You know it. I try to get them all down.
Yes, sir. 6 counties.
That's what I thought. I was going to say it's 5 or 6.
Yeah, Wright, Dent, Laclede, Phelps, Pulaski, and Mary's.
That's right. Pulaski, and Laclede, and Dent. I knew I had a couple in there I'd forgotten. Well, let me ask you this last question again. Hannah Kelly for Senate.com. You can go and look her up, send her some questions, find out what she's about on the website. But Hannah, let me ask you this in our last minute or so together. I'm really curious what differentiates you. Obviously, you're in a pretty competitive primary. 4 candidates on the ballot. 3 of you I'm talking to this week, of course. Representatives, 2 of the other 3, representatives currently in the House. This has become pretty competitive. What differentiates you from your opponents, and why should voters walk in Tuesday or between now and then and cast their ballots for Hannah Kelly as opposed to these other 2 that they have a record on as well?
I appreciate the gentleman in the race with me. I will say the top 2 reasons for anyone listening that I'm asking for your vote, amongst many, but the top 2 would be I am the only person in this race to unequivocally promise, and those who know me know what I say I follow through with, and that is to ensure that we do not see the legalization of the illegal slot machines here in the state of Missouri. I am the only candidate to draw the line and unequivocally say that if I serve as your senator, we will not expand the legalized addiction issue that stares us in the face today. Mm-hmm. And secondarily to that, I'm the only candidate in this race that's went to the Supreme Court working to fight for the unborn lives and ensure the protection of moms and babies across Missouri. And those are the top 2 reasons. That's, as you well know, from what I've researched of your background, you're not a stranger to the political scene. There's always 50 reasons we could all talk about, right? But those are the 2 reasons that come to the top of my head right now. And I know that these are the things that are talked about on the campaign trail. And I can unequivocally tell you that those two pieces distinguish me, and I would be privileged and honored to go to work for the people of the 16th District if they give me the chance.
There you go. Former Representative Hannah Kelly running for Senate in District 16. Hannah, thank you so much for taking some time, making a pitch, and talking about your background today. I appreciate it, and we wish you all the best in your race.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a great day.
You too. Folks, more reckoning ahead. We'll get to some national stuff on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere.